Hi everybody, Penny here. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are doing what I'm calling oatmeal to go muffins. They are delicious. Now, the ingredients are 3 cups of oats. I have quick oats because that's what I have in the house all the time. But if you have just old-fashioned oats, they'll work just fine. Just don't use the instant oats because they're not the same. The next ingredient that I have is 1 cup of walnuts. Now this is optional. If you don't like nuts, you don't have to put them in. If you prefer almonds, you can do that. You know, whatever floats your boat is good. So we've got 3 cups of the quick oats, 1 cup of the walnuts, and as you can see, that's all going in the food processor. These are the only dry ingredients except for 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There's no flour in this particular recipe, so it is gluten-free. Not intentionally, but it happens to be gluten-free, which is great. Now, if you don't want to use the food processor, you don't have to. If you want these to be a little more fibrous, you can just use the quick oats or the regular oats and just hand chop the nuts if you want to put them in there. But I like them to be a little bit lighter, a little bit more soft. So that's why I put them in the food processor first. And then I blitz them for a minute or so. Not full minute, but you know what I mean. There we go. And then you check it and see, maybe another few seconds. There we go. And that is basically oatmeal flour, oat flour you could say, with some very finely chopped walnuts. And I like putting the walnuts and whatnot in the food processor because I like the flavor of the nut, but I'm not big on the texture of nuts in things. So I typically do put it through the food processor first. Okay, so now we're just going to add our cinnamon, baking powder, and salt. There we go. And we're just going to give that a little whisk to make sure it's all thoroughly combined. There we go. I'm going to switch to a spoon. Now that we've got all the cinnamon and everything broke up, there's no lumps. You don't want lumps in the cinnamon because then you'll take a bite of the muffin and too much cinnamon can be really bitter. But cinnamon typically adds some sweetness. Okay, there's your dry ingredients. Now, that's the other thing about this particular recipe. Not only is there no flour, there's no processed sugar. It's sweetened with the cinnamon and 1/2 cup of maple syrup. So to the maple syrup, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of butter, and we're going to melt that in the microwave. There we go. Chop it up in just a few little pieces. Put that in the microwave. Excuse my back. Put that on for 45 seconds. Now, the other thing that sweetens it a little bit is some vanilla. We also have 1 cup of applesauce, which also adds a little bit of sweetness, but there's no processed sugar. We're going to add 2 eggs and 1 cup of milk. So we're going to get that out of the microwave, pour it in our nice big bowl in about 20 seconds. So while we're waiting for that, let's crack our eggs. Because it doesn't matter what order you put it in the bowl, as long as it gets in the bowl. There we go. And I'll just wipe off my hands. There we go. And let's check on our maple syrup. Oh, and that looks nice and soft and melty, which is great. Just give that a little bit of a stir with the knife that I was using. Very nice and soft. Okay, so here's our eggs. And give them a good whisk go. Then we're going to add our 1 teaspoon of vanilla. There we go. Give that a little whisk in there. We've got our oven preheated to 350, and we've got 12 muffin cups lined, or you can grease them. But you need to grease them really, really well, because if not, these could stick. All right, so now we're going to add in our maple syrup and butter. Get that all whisked in there. There we go. So I did make sure the eggs were at room temperature because we warmed up the maple syrup and the butter. And if we were to put cold eggs in here now, the butter would all become lumpy again. You'd have all these little lumps of butter, which would still work, but it's not the best way to do it. Okay, now we're going to add in the applesauce. There we go. And this is unsweetened applesauce. Get that all incorporated in there. And now we're going to put in our 1 cup of milk. And this can be any milk. It could be half and half, could be, you know, tin milk, carnation milk, whatever milk you have on hand. And if you don't have any milk, you could easily use water. Or you could use almond milk, soy milk, whatever floats your boat. Now I'm going to add in about half of our oat flour, dry ingredients. There we go. Get that mixed up. And then the other half. And it's a very watery mixture. It's not like a cake batter or a typical muffin batter. It's really, really good. You can't overmix this because there's no gluten. There's no flour, so there's no gluten. Okay. There we go. Let's put this aside. Oh, sorry for the noise. Let's get our muffin cups. And this is like a 3 tablespoon ice cream scoop. I only use it for muffins or cookies. But if you have a 4 tablespoon, which is a 1/4 cup, that would be perfect because that's pretty much what goes in each muffin cup. And as you can see, it's very watery, like I said. So I'm just gonna fill these up. I'll probably have to go back and put some more in, but I'm just gonna divide it up evenly first, and then we'll go back. Oops, making a mess. Then we'll go back and make sure they're all filled. Then we're gonna put them in the oven for between 25 to 30 minutes. And when you touch them on the top and they bounce back, they're ready. So I'll finish this, put them in the oven, and when they come out and they're nice and cool, we'll be back. Hey everybody, back again. So our oatmeal to go muffins are ready, and these are delicious. And if you don't have time for breakfast, you throw a few of these in the oven for the week, put them in the fridge or pop them up in the freezer. Excellent option. And if you want to take a block of cheese, not a block, but you know, a piece of cheese or one of those little cottage cheese containers with you and a glass of milk or a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, voila, you have breakfast, which is awesome. And I'll just show you one now. They're still a little bit warm, so the liners are going to stick a little bit. But once they cool off completely, the liner doesn't stick at all. Look at that. Isn't that nice? It's so good. It's so good and they're still warm, which is awesome. I really hope you give it a go. They're really easy, really nutritious, gluten-free, processed sugar-free, but really delicious. You'd never know. I hope you give it a go. Enjoy. Bye. Mm. Mm-mm.